Now, the French President Emmanuel Macron is leading commemoration events in Nice to mark 1 year since the terror attack on the city. And there is President Macron, live pictures just coming in there from Nice of those commemoration events in Nice. 86 people died when a lorry crashed into crowds celebrating Bastille Day. President Macron, who of course earlier on had been meeting President Trump. Let's talk to the French journalist Nabila Ramdani, who's watching these pictures with me. And of course, France has suffered many terror attacks, but this one in Nice, particularly deadly.
Yes, indeed, and I have to say that as somebody who has visited the city on many occasions and who has spent many holidays in Nice as well, it is scarcely believable to look at Nice as a crime scene where the most appalling terror attack has been carried out now a year ago. I know that thousands of British people know all about the Promenade des Anglais as well, and the wonderful beach there, and of course Queen Victoria loved the city and often used to spend her holiday there too. So it's really the kind of place that is as far removed from international problems as you can imagine. And looking at the city today in the bright sunshine on July the 14th, it is a very surreal feeling, and the kind of feeling that was of course prevalent last year when thousands of people were just enjoying the fireworks on a national bank holiday, and then the truck appeared out of nowhere and killed 86 people.
Such a shocking attack. Has Nice 1 year on, has it recovered from that attack? A tourist back there in the same sort of numbers, would you say?
I think with, all kinds of problems of this sort, and any society that is built on common values, people learn to move on and indeed to rebuild situations based on common goals. And it has to be said that the French government has poured an awful lot of resources into fighting the scourge of terrorism. In very practical terms, let's say that it will be much more difficult to get a lorry on the Promenade des Anglais nowadays. But it has to be said that an awful lot of questions remain unanswered to this day as to why the lorry was allowed in the first place and why it was so easy to kill as many people as possible. But President Macron is portraying himself at the forefront of the fight against terrorism, and he's putting an awful lot of resources into this combat. And we've seen how this very pressing issue was high on the agenda during the visit of Donald Trump.
Let's talk a bit about that visit, actually. Very, very warm handshakes between President Macron and President Trump, almost as if Mr. Macron is trying to make a point to the world. He wants to be friends with Donald Trump, even if other world leaders perhaps don't. Yes,
I think there is certainly a sense that President Emmanuel Macron wants to establish France as Donald Trump's link to Europe. And we always talk about the special relationship between Britain and America. But during the press conference yesterday, we heard Donald Trump emphasize the fact that France is America's oldest ally, highlighting the revolutionary spirit of both countries, and indeed going as far back in history as General Lafayette, who indeed helped secure American independence against the British. And we've seen a very pragmatic Emmanuel Macron as well, who was keen to, as he starts his own term in office, to get on with a hugely divisive figure, it has to be said, in Donald Trump. But he still is very much aware that Donald Trump remains the most powerful man on earth, and there are some very pressing problems that are facing both countries, and they need to get on well. And Donald Trump has also highlighted what an outstanding new leader Emmanuel Macron is, who can lead France to great things.
And I suppose President Macron, being newly elected, he feels he's confident enough, as it were, to do that, to maybe go out on a limb with his warm welcome for Donald Trump. And also, there hasn't been that much opposition to the Trump visit, has there? I mean, there might have been in other European countries. You might have seen demonstrations and so on, but not so much of that in France.
Well, yes, indeed. And Emmanuel Macron made all the right noises, emphasizing his friendship with Donald Trump and the fact that they are going to work as allies. And this suggested that the Franco-American relationship is one of the strongest in the world at the moment. But it is very clear, nonetheless, that Macron is far more interested in the institution of the American presidency than in Donald Trump himself. And it is a wise diplomacy to have received him in such a civilized and respectful manner. And you're quite right to highlight the actual lack of protest. You know, France is, after all, and Paris in particular, the birthplace of revolution and indeed known for protests. And there were even no Trump areas set up near the Bastille area, which remained particularly empty. So it was quite unexpected to see this lack of protest. I think there's an acknowledgement amongst the French population that regardless of the reactionary brand of identity politics that Donald Trump represents, he remains a very powerful man indeed.
All right, well, Nabila Ramdani, French journalist, thank you very much indeed. We're just seeing President Macron there in Nice once again, live pictures on a beautiful sunny day there as part of the commemorations in the southern city 1 year on after that devastating terror attack in the city which left 86 people dead and some 300 injured. We'll have more from Nice later on.